Greetings YouTube, this is Toy Customizer Wakeangel2001, and before I start the video proper, I just got this Metal Sonic in the mail. I'm going to make him in the Mecha Sally very soon, and I just wanted a quick side-by-side comparison. This is the first original run of Metal Sonic, which was recalled for personal defects. Personally, this one had a default in the leg which caused it to keep falling out. I since repaired it, and it's become my favorite little figure from the series. And this is one of the later release ones, which supposedly fixed the original's flaws. And not sure how well it shows up, but you should be able to see that this one is a bit darker. It's darker, and it actually has a little more of a metallic sparkle to it. A lot of people prefer this design because it, has more of a metallic sparkle to it. But you know what? This is just my opinion, but I still prefer the older one with the slightly lighter colors. Not sure why. It's probably because when I was a kid and I saw the original concept art and saw him in the comic books, he always looked like he was supposed to be a slightly lighter shade of blue than regular Sonic was. So when this one comes out, which is a darker color that actually does match Sonic's blue, it just, I don't know, for some reason it didn't quite ring true to me. So, yeah. Alright, now let's start the video proper. Okay, so, now that we are in the video proper, let's take a look at them one by one, and then take a few group shots. We're gonna do this by era, and I'm gonna start with the one that started it all, of course, Moto Bug, the first of the Genesis era Badniks. It's basically just a little piece of molded plastic. It has no articulation. I'm told that the wheel is a separate piece. It's attached in there with a peg. A friend of mine, Andrew Strappers, the one who sent me the Iblis Biter, what he did was he pulled the wheel out and then rigged up an axle there so that he could take the peg off and make it so it would actually roll. Of course, I have not done that. The only thing I did to my Moto Bug was paint its colors to be more accurate to the original Sonic games. Or, Sonic 4 if you rather. Because when this thing comes in the package, it is red and black. Aside from the eyes and these spots, there's really no different paint colors on it. Which at first I thought was really lazy, but when I got some better looks at screenshots, I actually found matched Moto Bug's color scheme from Sonic Colors. That was, interesting. So it was the Sonic Colors version of Moto Bug, despite the fact that in Sonic Generations we see something that's much closer to the Sonic 4 version of Moto Bug. And speaking of the Sonic 4 version of Moto Bug, there's my Moto Bug custom. Yes, just for comparison's sake, let's bring out my old custom. I built this guy based on the concept art for Sonic 4, and I built it to what I thought was a much more appropriate scale. Actually, I think mine is more appropriate scale, because in the video game, these guys seem relatively large when you compare them to Sonic, and the toys are much smaller. I'm not sure if that's because I'm not sure if the toy scale is more accurate, meaning the Badniks are significantly smaller than Sonic, and the video game only makes them appear larger so that you can more easily target them, or if the Badniks are actually supposed to be that large, and the toys are just undersized. So, I'm not sure about that, but what I can tell you is that my Moto Bug actually has rolling wheels, and those wheels are attached to the claws. So you see, as it moves forward, the claws go up and down. It's slight, but it's there. Alright, that's enough. Okay, so as you can see, if I were to give it a review out of out of 10. With my paint applications, it looks pretty freaking awesome. But out of the box, with its basic black and red color scheme, with zero articulation, I had to give it pretty low marks. But, you know, for the fact that it was Moto Bug, it was the perfect inclusion to give with Sonic himself. So let's move on to the next Badnik in the Genesis generation. Yeah, that's what we're going to call this. We're going to call this the Genesis generation. And it's Grabber. This little guy was packaged with classical tails. Yeah, classical tails. This one has not been repainted by me in any way. If I did, the only thing I would really be able to do is paint the legs silver and maybe add a string to his back. But I figured that was more trouble than it was worth. This guy has some really nice sculpted detail in those little legs. See if I can get up close enough. See, it has little joints, and there's actually a bit of a toothing structure. Sorry, a little bit of a toothing structure on the inside of these legs, like they're supposed to be fingerprints that help grip a helpless Mobian. So, yeah, in terms of detail sculpt, this is pretty freaking close to perfect, and yeah, it was for Moto Bug too. So, although the paint app is again kind of lazy with only the eyes done in purple and blue and just a couple of yellow stripes painted on the body, it's actually a really good representation of what Grabber looks like. Too bad he has no points of articulation. It would have been cool if they could have put those legs on hinges so that they could close. But I don't know. Maybe they were just going for sculpt accuracy better than you know, actual mobility. And then I have one more custom from the Genesis generation, and that's my Grounder. In terms of size scale, Grounder actually matches very nicely with his Genesis brethren. Unlike my massively over huge Moto Bug, he actually looks like he'd be the appropriate size in the Generations line. And being made from an Android's toy, he has wheels, little Hot Wheel style wheels that let him roll, and he has shoulder joints, so he can move his arms. Yes, he can totally move his arms. So he can play with the egg pawns in terms of articulation. Actually, these are universal joints, so I can make his drills move outwards if I wanted to, but they're also so tightly set in there that they scratch the paint when I move him. So if I were to do it, it would reveal that he has yellow armpits, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, that's from Sonic 2. It's Grounder. Not the cartoon version, the video game version, which turned out to be serendipitous. So, the next Badnik in the Genesis era would come out on Sonic CD. It's Metal Sonic. I know what you're probably thinking, like, he's not part of the Generations Badnik lines. And on top of that, he's actually closer to a standalone figure. But you know what? Metal Sonic is a Badnik. He came out during the Generations era, the Genesis generation. Why do I keep messing that up? And you know what? He's one of my favorite figures in the entire series. So he counts. He counts because I say he counts. Don't you contradict me. So yeah, well, you know, since this guy is actually more a figure on the 3-inch line than he is a Badnik inclusion, he actually has all of that lovely articulation that Jazzwares has become so popular about. This is the, you saw at the beginning preview promo preview, you know, at the beginning when I showed the comparison. This is the lighter colored Metal Sonic, which to me rings more true to the Sonic CD appearance of him. Because, you know, I'm not sure if this is just my fuzzy memories, but I remember in the older concept art, Metal Sonic appeared to be a lighter blue than Sonic was. So I never really questioned it. When this guy came out, I felt that he was more accurate. And when the new one came out that had the darker blue, I appreciated that it looked a little more metallic, but, you know, I still like this guy. And, well, you know, he's bloody Metal Sonic. He's one of the... He actually straddles that line between Badnik and character. So yeah, I really can't gush enough about him, but I don't want to stand here forever talking about Metal Sonic. So let's move on to the next game. The next game, of course, being Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So let's talk about the first Badnik that I actually had doubles of. This is the Sandworm, which came packaged with modern tails. And although it's the Sandworm as he appeared in Sonic Colors, Sandworm as a Badnik appeared in Sonic 3, the Sandopolis Zone. He was he basically resembles Caterkiller, except that he jumps up and down out of the sands and attacks you. In this case, he comes out of a little trapdoor and shoots you, so they really changed him for Sonic Colors, but he's still called Sandworm, as far as I know. This is another non-articulated Badnik, although I think they could have at least given him, like, maybe a ball joint here in the head so that he could turn his head around and shoot. Again, paint application is pretty light, although on this particular Badnik it doesn't really show as much. I guess, you know, if you really wanted to, you could pick out details on the antenna, maybe these wheels on the side. Again, my friend Andrew Strappers, he took this guy and gave it articulation points and a more accurate color scheme. You can check out his DeviantArt. I think he posted on DeviantArt. I'm not sure. But yeah, he gave this guy articulation, which I thought was pretty cool. Of course, I'm not going to go into that much trouble because I got a lot of commissions to do. But yeah, it's a little standy thing, and compared to Moto Bug and Grabber, this guy actually is, I want to say, the biggest so far. He is slightly larger, although compared to the size of the Sonic figures, he still feels pretty undersized. So yeah, there's not much to talk about for what's essentially a statue that doesn't move, so let's move on to the final entry in the Genesis generation. I got it right the first time. And that is the Egg Robo. And that is my tilted stove again. The Egg Robo, you've seen these. You should probably know that I've already done customization and modification to these guys, both in paint scheme and modifying the hand to allow them to hold their guns. Guns which I can remove because it's a peg and hole, but I don't want to go fumbling too much in this video. And these guys are definitely the winners of the Genesis generation if you don't count Metal Sonic. They only have 2 points of articulation in their shoulders, so they don't exactly pose too much, but you know, they get enough along. Like, they can wave their gun up in the air, they can point it at you. Yeah, they can point it at you. Oh, come on, you used to be cool. Yeah, they can point it at you. And while holding the guns, they can stand. Although without the guns, they flop right over because of the weight of their jetpacks. Although the jetpack is, you can pop it out if you heat the figure to soften it, this does pop out, and without the jetpack and with no gun, he does stand. But then there's no... I don't really recall seeing... well, actually, there was the Egg Robo in Sonic and Knuckles. When you play Knuckles storyline, instead of if you don't die in the boss fights, instead of fighting Dr. Robotnik, you fight a modified Egg Robo that has no gun and no jetpack. So I guess you could, if you wanted to make it the Robotnik imposter Egg Robo, then you might remove his jetpack and his gun. But you know, come on, who would do that? It's a jetpack and a gun. You're not going to remove that. Those are two things that make things awesome. As for the scale, they are as tall as Classic Sonic, but not as tall as Robotnik. I really feel that they should be as tall as Robotnik because they were meant to be imitations of him. So they're definitely not as undersized as most of the other Badniks so far, but they still feel like they should just be a little bit taller. Just a little bit. Okay, so this is the end of the Genesis generation, and we're going to move on to the middle part of the game, which was the Dreamcast era.